Hey there, so I'm working on Naima, the fantastic composition by John Coltrane. So it's named after his wife, I think, and it's from Giant Steps, the Giant Steps album. So this tune, we're gonna look at how to solo over this tune. You can't really treat it the same way you would treat, let's say, a jazz standard, like There Wouldn't Be Another You or something like that, where you can kind of play in the key and play arpeggios, the chord tones and all that stuff. Here you have to treat, I think, each chord modally. So it's more of a modal approach rather than a diatonic tune. You could argue that the tune is in A flat, I guess, but I prefer to think of each chord as one mode, one color going to the next. So the tune is basically two pedals, an E flat pedal. For the A section, it's AAB form, and the B section is a B flat pedal. Then you have all these different chords on top of the pedal. Right, in B section. So it's very interesting how the colors are kind of changing. That's how I think of this tune. There's each chord is like a color. So that's what we're aiming for here. I'm gonna make the argument that we're gonna try to play modes rather than scales. So we're not gonna think of these modes as scales, but rather as colors. And the tune is the canvas, which we're like an artist who are painting on this canvas. That's what I want to aim for here. So first off, we still need to know what the modes are. So here are the modes that I think are the best modes for these chords. So I'm gonna not ignore, but let's put the pedal aside for a second and just think of the actual chords on top of the pedal. That's what we need to focus on. Those are the chords that we're gonna come up with different modes for. So first we have a B flat minor. So B flat Dorian. So even though there's an E flat pedal, I'm thinking about the B flat Dorian. Some of you are saying, well, isn't it a D flat major 7 over E flat? But it's kind of the same thing. The notes are coming from the same scale. So I think the new real book says D flat major 7 over E flat. And the old real book says B flat minor, I think. I'm thinking B flat minor. So I'm not claiming to know what John Coltrane or Swinton Kelly, I think, playing here, what they were thinking. I'm just thinking what I prefer. So I don't have to know what they were doing. So don't use this stuff for your thesis or something. I don't claim to know what they were doing. We use theory to come up with something that will work for ourselves. So B flat Dorian to E flat Dorian. Then you have these chords. So what is this? So it's an A major 7 flat 5 to G major 7 flat 5 to A flat major 7. Now the real book says B7 sharp 5, B7 sharp 11 to A7 sharp 11 or flat 5. Well, that's the same thing, right? So the A major 7 flat 5, if I just put a B in the bass, we get a dominant chord to A7, A13 you could play an A major 7 sharp 5 to G7 sharp 5, G major 7 sharp 5. That will give you the B Lydian flat 7 scale, A Lydian flat 7 scale to A flat Lydian. So if I play all this, the A section, just the scales. I think that sounds pretty strong, so let me do that over the backing track.
1,
so
2,
B flat Dorian,
3, 4.
So we have a little bit of functional harmony there with the A dominant chord going to A flat. So it's like it's kind of like a dominant going to its tonic. Now this is maybe not what they're actually playing. They're actually playing this, I think, A major 7 to G7 major 7. So it's not major 7 flat 5 or sharp 5. I think there is a little bit of both. But the new real book says A major 7 to G major 7. G major 7 over E flat gives you a really strange chord. It's like a G, E flat major 7 sharp 9. So you could do that if you want to stretch things, but I think in my experience most people play those as the either major 7 flat 5 chords or major 7 sharp 5 chords. But if you think of them as part of the dominant chords instead. So let me repeat that so it's not too confusing. If I played A major 7 flat 5 over B, I get a B dominant chord, a Lydian flat 7 chord. Could also play A major 7 sharp 5 over B. Also gives me that Lydian flat 7 chord. So it's kind of like, again, the piano player is playing this here and the bass note with the other hand, right? So I'm thinking of two things at the same time. Then on top of everything we have a pedal bass note. Right, so let's move on. Next, the B section, we have a B flat pedal and a B major 7 to this, which is a 13 flat 9 chord. B major 7 over B flat gives you this Phrygian sound. But remember, we're not thinking of the scale from the pedal note, we're thinking of the chord. So I'm thinking B Lydian to the diminished scale, the half whole. So Lydian, B Lydian to B flat half whole. Okay, so normally when you play a Phrygian chord, you would play this. A major 7 flat 5 again, right? Over B flat. But here it's B major. It's very different from just something to consider. We might come back to this chord. It's a funny one. Then you have this which is an E Lydian flat 7. And if I think of it in relation to the B flat, it's an altered scale, right? But again, I'm not thinking about it like that. I'm thinking this chord, E dominant, sharp 11, something. Then we have the B major again. Then F minor or A flat major, but F minor, I'm thinking F minor. And then we have an E major 7, which gives you kind of a Locrian if you were to relate it to the pedal note. So in the new real book, it gives you this funny chord symbol, so it's kind of like this, I guess. And then we're back to the A section. So now, let me just play that too. Here is that. So here's the B section. B Lydian. F Dorian, E Lydian, that's my favorite part of the tune, when it's back. So it's very colorful and beautiful and rich harmony. So just to prove my point there that I'm actually thinking about the chords without the pedal notes, I could make a little backing track for myself with my loop pedal where I play the tune as a bossa nova, just for practice, not disrespecting the tune, just for practice, and playing the chords without the pedal. So there, I think that helps you kind of hearing the harmony clearly. So what the modes actually are that you're thinking of. There's one place where you might want to reconsider. It's the B over B flat. You might want to think of that as a B flat Phrygian chord. So instead of playing B Lydian, you're thinking B flat Phrygian, which is the same scales, right? But different ways of thinking about it. That's up to you. Now, let's get away from the scales. So when I say a scale, what are you thinking? I think we're all thinking this, right? That's an F Lydian scale. Pricing like that in steps, seconds. But I want you to think of it as modes. So you don't have to play the scale like that. You could play, F Lydian. It could be anything. All that is F Lydian, but I'm not playing. For those of you who teach, you know that happens when you're introducing someone. You're introducing improvisation to a student, right? And you're showing them a scale, and now improvise. They always start playing. But you're just playing scales, right? There's so much more you can do. So we're gonna look into that right now. And the first thing we're gonna do is, instead of playing the scale like this, so we should think of it as modes rather than scale. I'm gonna play them as thirds. Those are the same 7 notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just a different way of organizing the notes. And this is what's called an extended arpeggio. So I guess it's an F major 7, F major 13 chord. Okay, so we can call that an extended arpeggio. It works, some modes work better than others. You want the modes that don't have the avoid note, because the avoid note is weak. Dorian. So we're gonna do that. If I do that over these changes, I get this. And then dominant extended arpeggio with the sharp 11. Lydian extended arpeggio. Can you hear the changes? And then B Lydian. Now this. What? Sorry. I'll do that over the backing track. Okay, so practice that and then also do the reverse, right? So from the extension. The nice thing is we get the chord on the bottom and then the extensions above it, which is what we want. So try to start from the top. A little bit more difficult. If you want a really good exercise, I'm not going to do it now, but play the chord and sing these extended arpeggios, but start from the top. So you have to find the 13 or whatever and go down. Really good exercise. Another thing you can do, right, is let's do a chromatic approach tone to each. Right? So there's all sorts of things you can do with these arpeggios besides just playing them up and down. And now you're asking, okay, is there any other way I can play these notes, the scale? If I can play them as seconds, scales, or thirds, extended arpeggios, shouldn't I be able to do other intervals? Yes, you can. Fifths, you could do fifths. So then you have to kind of go into the, what's his name? George Russell school of Lydian chromatic concept. So I'm not an expert at that stuff, so I'm not going to claim that I know exactly what he's talking about. But from what I understand, his argument is that if you take any notes from a major scale, C major, for example, we think that C is the root. But he's saying that no, the F is the root. The Lydian scale is the home scale, the root of that tonality. Why? Because you can stack fifths. So I'm back to the F Lydian scale. 7 notes. 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are all perfect fifths. The only way you can play all perfect fifths in that scale, F Lydian or C major, is if I start on F. If you want all the fifths to be perfect. That's why the F is the root. So you could do that. Then you have to find the Lydian parent scale of each chord, right? So the first mode is B flat Dorian, which means that it's D flat Lydian. And then G flat. A little bit trickier to do when you're doing the modes of the melodic minor, because then you have to think of the Lydian augmented scale as a parent. So this is a little bit outside of the topic. So if you want to look into that stuff, I think you can find that book, the Lydian chromatic scale or whatever it's called, online. I don't think it's in print anymore. I don't think I've ever seen a copy. I've only seen copies, photocopies. So you could also stack fourths of it. If I stack a fourth of F Lydian scale as fourths, I have to do the opposite, right? Because a fourth is an inversion of a fifth. So instead of starting on the root, I do the exact opposite. I end on the root. So that's also an F Lydian scale, but played as fourths. So just trying to make you understand that there's many ways you can play a scale other than just playing it stepwise. Nothing wrong with that, of course, you can, but you want all the options. You want to be able to do anything. I remember this video, I think, where Alan Holsworth talks about playing scales, and he talks about imagine the fretboard. I think he's like, I'm paraphrasing, but I think he's saying that imagine that the scale is all the notes on the fretboard and your hand is just your fingers just dancing anywhere they want. That's kind of what we're aiming for. We we don't want to be locked into finger habits and patterns. We want to be able to go where the ear is leading us, I guess. Another cool way you can do extended arpeggios is to play like this. I love doing that. That's a cool lick. All right, so what other ways are there that we can play these scales, not as scales, but as modes? Well, if we take the first three notes, that's a triad. It's a B flat minor triad. The next three notes, A flat triad. So those are two triads. Right? You could find other triads as well, right? But let's take these two, B flat minor, A flat major. There are many ways I can organize those notes. I don't have to play them. And then do the same with the other. I take the first three notes and then the next three notes and play them separately as triads. B and A augmented, A, G augmented, A flat, G minor. B and B flat minor. Here, B and then look, E major triad. So if you want to know how to combine triads like that, you should get this book, which I have covered before. One way where he, for example, combines triad coupling or triad pairs is like this. And then go down and play the next triad. Go down to the closest. Let's try that over the backing track. You really want to get into hexatonics, you get this book, which I'm pretty sure I've also covered. Yeah, I have. Jerry Bugonzi's Hexatonics. Then you have endless variations of how to play these triad couplings and endless combination of different triads that you can use. Okay, so now we have even more material to work on. Lastly, you're asking perhaps, well, why do we have to take them just like two triads? Why can't it be any of those notes combined? And yes, now you get into this book, Creative Chordal Harmony for Guitar by Mick Goodrick and Tim Miller, which I have also covered before. I'll post links to all these lessons and to the books in the description below. The concept here is called generic modality compression. So they take the first mode, for example, B flat minor, B flat Dorian, and ignore the root. You're left with 6 notes. Now you can combine these notes in different combinations. It doesn't have to be triads, what we usually think of triads. So it could be, for example, this. So that's an A flat, D flat, and E flat. If I ignore the B flat, the root, that means I have 3 notes left from that 6-note scale. Which notes are there? Well, they're these. G, C, and F. So those 2 shapes, or triads if you want to call them that, create a 6-note scale over B flat. Then you find the inversions. So all of a sudden I can do all that with just B flat Dorian. Right? So I'm not getting into it in detail here because I've covered it before and the lesson would never end. So I'm just giving you a taste of what's in these books. Right, so speaking of books, I have ordered a whole bunch of new books. Got them yesterday. So thank you so much to my patrons that enables me to purchase these books. They're not cheap. So this is Jazz Theory Resources. It's more of a theory book than a guitar book, so I'm not even sure if I'm gonna make a video about that. But this book I had never heard of before, and somebody recommended it in a comment, and I have just looked at it today and yesterday a little bit, and it's blowing my mind. I've never heard of this book before, and Complete Book of Harmony, Theory, and Voicing. It's a bold title, but from what I can tell, just from looking at it these 2 days, it's completely unbelievable book. So I'll make a video about this for sure, but it might take a while because it's a lot of stuff. And also got this book, which might surprise some people perhaps. Looks very interesting. There's some transcriptions of Alan Holdsworth's playing there, which is very far from how I play or approach the guitar, but I think that's good to go outside of your comfort zone every now and then. Also ordered more books, so I'm waiting for them. It's taking a very long time these days to arrive, but again, thank you so much to my patrons for that. And I love getting comments. I love when people suggest books. I'm so grateful for the recommendation for this harmony and voicing book, right? So please comment in the comment section below if you have any other books you think I should get or review, and subscribe and follow my channel. Become a Patreon if you want more stuff, and yeah, I shall see you next time.